They laughed at you while standing on a crumbling pedestal, blind to the cracks beneath their feet. Now the ground is giving way, and they're reaching for your hand, the very hand they slapped away. Poetic justice, isn't it? If you're tired of watching the blind stumble in their arrogance, if you're ready to claim the power you've always carried, then like this video and subscribe right now. Your time has come, Chosen One. Welcome, Chosen One. The time for whispers is over. The truth you have held in your hands, steady, unwavering, and undeniable, is now a roaring flame, burning away the veils of deception they clung to like a security blanket. They mocked you, dismissed you, and tried to bury you under their illusions. But no lie can outlast the truth. You've always been the storm they prayed would never come, the silent reckoning that haunted their fragile, false sense of control. You're not just another voice in the crowd. You are the chosen one, the one who sees beyond the shallow waters of their ignorance and dives into depths they're too afraid to explore. That's what terrifies them, the clarity you possess, the unwavering power of your insight. They tried to silence you because your very existence exposes their weakness. Every time you walk into a room, it's as if the air shifts, and they feel the weight of what they don't understand. They can't run from it anymore because the truth is no longer a secret. It's an avalanche, and they're caught in its path. Imagine this. They're like children building sandcastles too close to the shore, laughing at your warnings about the rising tide. Now the waves are crashing in, and all they can do is scream as their illusions wash away. But here's the irony. They had the chance to join you, to listen, to learn, but their pride kept them rooted in denial. And now they choke on the salt water of their own arrogance, while you stand tall, untouchable, protected by something they can never comprehend. This isn't just about being right. It's about the divine protection that comes with knowing the truth. You weren't just chosen by chance. You were chosen by purpose. The universe, God, or fate, whatever you believe in, placed a shield around you that your enemies could never break. Every dagger they threw at you became a stepping stone beneath your feet. Every insult, every lie, every sneer only made you stronger. Their attempts to tear you down were like trying to snuff out the sun with their bare hands, futile and laughable. But let's make one thing clear. Your power doesn't come from vengeance. It comes from clarity, from the light you carry, from the truth you embody. That's what they fear most. Not your words, not your actions, but the undeniable fact that you've always been 10 steps ahead. You didn't just survive their ridicule, you thrived in spite of it. And now, as the walls of their delusions collapse, they're left scrambling in the rubble, searching for answers they once rejected. Chosen One. They feel you now. Every move you make is a thunderclap in their minds. Every step you take a reminder of the strength they can never replicate. The power you hold isn't just yours. It's the weight of destiny, the unstoppable force of a truth that was never meant to be silenced. So, as the tides rise and their castles fall, remember this. You were always the storm. You were always the chosen one. And they finally know it. And thank you. Yes, you, the chosen one. Whether this is your first time here, or you've stood unwavering on this journey with us, your presence and super gifts are the fire igniting this revolution of truth. If you're ready to step into your divine power, silence the doubters, and claim your rightful place above the noise, smash that like button, hit subscribe, and drop a number 77 in the comments to declare that your isolation has been the crucible of your transformation. Now, let's tear down the illusions and rise into the power that's been waiting for you. Let's begin. Number 1. They played the game, but you were the one writing the rules. They thought they were kings on a chessboard, but you were the hand moving the pieces. They celebrated false victories, unaware the real game was over before it began. Chosen one. You've always been the unseen architect, the master strategist. While they danced on illusions and gloated over their fleeting wins, you were silently crafting the very foundation they'd collapse under. They mocked you because they thought their noise drowned out your silence, but they never understood that silence is where power grows. The storm doesn't announce itself until it's too late, and now they're caught in its center, gasping for air, trying to rewrite a game they were never equipped to play. You see, their arrogance wasn't strength. It was desperation masquerading as control. They didn't mock you because they were ahead. They mocked you because your existence terrified them. Their laughter was a hollow echo, a mask to hide the fear they felt in the presence of your quiet certainty. They played checkers, celebrating each short-lived jump forward. But you were playing chess, 10 steps ahead, planning the checkmate long before they even noticed the board. Here's what they never understood. You were never competing with them. You've always been on a higher plane, one they couldn't even perceive. Their insults, their schemes, their petty attempts to discredit you, none of it mattered because they were irrelevant to the larger purpose you've been chosen for. The divine doesn't choose lightly. Your path was forged with intention, shielded by forces they'll never comprehend. That's why every arrow they fired at you missed its mark. Every trap they set caught only themselves. They weren't battling you, they were battling destiny itself. And no one wins against that. Imagine a house built on sand, with walls made of cards, while the builder stands proud, pretending it's a fortress. That's what their life has been. A fragile structure built on ego, ignorance, and denial. But the winds of truth don't discriminate. And now their walls have collapsed. They're scrambling in the debris, searching for a way to save face, while you stand tall, untouched, and unbothered. You didn't need to knock down their castle. The weight of their lies did it for you. That's the power of truth. It doesn't shout. It simply waits for the moment when it can no longer be ignored. They'll tell themselves you were lucky. They'll rewrite the story to paint themselves as victims of circumstance, never admitting you were the force that exposed their hollow victories. But deep down, they know the truth, and it haunts them. They've come to realize what they feared all along. You didn't just survive their games, you were the one who designed the rules. And now, chosen one, as you stand in your power, you might wonder, why me? Why was I given this burden of foresight, this ability to see through their lies when no one else could? The answer is simple, because only you were strong enough to carry it. The divine doesn't place its most precious gifts in the hands of the weak. You were chosen because your spirit is unbreakable, your vision unclouded. While they drowned in their illusions, you walked through the fire, emerging stronger with every step. They can't understand you, and they never will. They've spent their lives chasing applause, living for validation, while you've been guided by purpose. They thrive on fleeting attention. You thrive on eternal truths. That's why they can't touch you. Their weapons were never meant for someone like you. The power you carry isn't something they can dismantle or destroy. It's woven into your very being, and that terrifies them more than anything else. They played the part of puppeteers, but the strings were in your hands all along. Every move they made, every attempt to discredit you, was nothing more than a reaction to the truth you embodied. They didn't realize it then, but you were leading them, pulling their strings, letting them unravel themselves. And now, as the game they thought they were winning falls apart, they're left with nothing but the realization that they never even understood the rules. Chosen one, this is your moment. The power you hold isn't just about being right. It's about being unstoppable. You were never playing their game. You were shaping the future. While they reveled in shallow victories, you were building legacies. Their arrogance made them blind, but your clarity made you invincible. They see it now, but it's too late. They played the game, yes, but you, chosen one, were always the author of their story. And now, as they sit in the rubble of their own making, remember this: you don't owe them anything. The divine protection that shielded you is proof that your path is yours alone, untouchable and undeniable. Keep walking and let them watch as you rise. Their story has ended, but yours is just beginning. Number 2. Their words were daggers, but you turned them into armor. They threw words like knives, thinking they could wound you, but all they did was sharpen your edge. The more they tried to cut you down, the more they forged your invincibility. Chosen one, they underestimated you. They thought their words could break you, that the weight of their ridicule would crush your spirit. But here you stand, stronger than ever, wearing every insult they hurled at you as part of the unbreakable armor you've built. They thought they were cutting you, but they were crafting the steel you carry now. Their daggers came disguised as harmless jokes, condescending remarks, and hollow laughter. They whispered behind your back, mocked you to your face, and cheered for your failure when they thought you couldn't hear. They wanted to see you fall because your existence threatened their fragile sense of superiority. To them, you were a target, a reminder of what they couldn't comprehend and what they feared to face within themselves. But what they didn't realize is that words only hurt when you let them. Every dagger they aimed at your heart only added another layer to your strength. Each insult was a spark against your spirit, igniting a fire they couldn't extinguish. While they wasted their energy sharpening their tongues, you were silently sharpening your resolve. Imagine a blacksmith hammering molten metal into shape. Every blow makes the material stronger, harder, and more resilient. That's what they did to you, chosen one. Their attacks were meant to destroy you, but instead, they forged you into something indestructible. They thought they were breaking you down, but they were building you up, piece by piece, without even realizing it. Here's the truth they never understood. Your power doesn't come from their approval. It comes from within, from the unshakable force that chose you for this path. The divine doesn't place its strongest warriors in battles they can't win. Every word they threw at you, every attempt to diminish you, was a test, not of your weakness, but of your strength, and you passed with flying colors. They used their words as weapons, but you turned them into shields. Every time they doubted you, you learned to trust yourself more. Every time they insulted you, you grew more confident in the truth you carried. They called you names, labeled you a dreamer, a fool, even crazy. But you saw through it. Their words weren't about you, they were about their fear of you. Think about it. Why would they attack so hard if you weren't a threat? Why spend so much energy trying to tear you down if they didn't sense your power? Their words were never meant to reveal your flaws. They were desperate attempts to hide their own. They thought they were cutting you, but every blade they threw only exposed their insecurity. They don't understand how you survived, chosen one. They can't fathom how you took their worst and transformed it into your strength. That's because they're stuck in a world where words are weapons, and they've never learned how to wield anything else. But you turned their weapons against them. Every dagger they threw was another piece of armor added to your impenetrable fortress. They tried to write your story with lies, but you rewrote it in truth. Their words may have stung in the moment, but now they mean nothing. You've outgrown their judgments, risen above their petty games. While they wasted their time trying to tear you apart, you were busy building something they'll never understand, an unbreakable sense of self. They can't touch you now, and deep down, they know it. And now they're left wondering, how did you survive? How did you turn every attack into an advantage? The answer is simple. You knew who you were all along. You didn't let their words define you because their opinions were never your truth. The power you hold, the divine protection that surrounds you, was never theirs to take. That's what scares them most. They were never in control, and they never will be. Chosen One, the armor you wear now is a testament to your strength, a reflection of every battle you've endured and conquered. Their words may have been sharp, but your spirit is sharper. They may have tried to break you, but they ended up building you. Every insult, every sneer, every attempt to wound you was just another nail in the coffin of their own insecurity. So let them talk. Let them throw their daggers. They'll only blunt themselves against the armor you now wear. Remember this. Your strength isn't just in surviving their attacks. It's in thriving because of them. You've turned their words into your power, their doubt into your motivation, and their hatred into your fuel. They'll never understand how you did it. And that's fine. Their words are their chains, but you've already broken free. Keep rising, Chosen One. Let their daggers fall to the ground, useless and dull. You've already won. Number 3. Echoes of mockery turned into whispers of regret. They laughed at you with the confidence of fools standing in quicksand. Now, their laughter has faded into silence, and that silence is filled with regret they can't escape. Chosen One, do you hear it? The absence of their mockery is deafening. The echoes of their laughter, once so loud and condescending, have dissolved into whispers of shame and regret. They thought their ridicule could break you, but instead it became the haunting soundtrack of their own ignorance. While they smirked and scoffed, thinking they had the upper hand, they didn't realize they were writing the prologue to their downfall. They mocked you because it was easier than listening. Your truth threatened the fragile house of cards they'd built, and instead of facing it, they chose to laugh. To them, mockery was a shield, a desperate defense against the clarity you carried. They called you names, questioned your sanity, and treated your vision as a joke. They thought their voices could drown out your resolve, but what they never understood is that the truth doesn't need to shout. It simply waits. Mockery is the last refuge of the ignorant. That's all they had, Chosen One, empty laughs and hollow words. But now the tables have turned. Their once boisterous confidence has been replaced by awkward glances, nervous fidgeting, and quiet conversations they hope you don't hear. Regret lingers in the air like smoke from a fire they set and couldn't control. The same voices that roared with ridicule now tremble with uncertainty. They wonder if you noticed their shift, if you can hear the regret in their whispers. And the answer is yes, you can. Imagine their minds now, replaying every moment they dismissed you, every sneer they threw your way. Those memories haunt them, not because of what they said, but because they know now that they were wrong. They realize their laughter wasn't strength, it was fear. Fear of what you represented, fear of being wrong, fear of facing the truth you carried with such unwavering certainty. They'll never admit it outright. Their egos won't let them. Instead, their regret seeps out in subtle ways, in the way their smiles falter when they see you, in the hesitation in their voices when they speak your name, in the sudden politeness they didn't offer before. They try to hide it, but you can see it as clearly as the sunrise. The same people who once mocked you are now haunted by the realization that they dismissed the very wisdom they now crave. You were the target of their laughter, but now you're the source of their reflection. They're looking at themselves now, questioning why they didn't listen, why they didn't see what you saw. And that's the hardest truth for them to face, that deep down they always knew you were right. There was always a part of them that recognized your clarity, but they buried it under their pride and denial. Now, as reality unfolds exactly as you predicted, they can't bury it anymore. The truth is staring them in the face, and it's wearing your name. Chosen one, do not let their regret tempt you into bitterness. Their mockery didn't define you then, and their regret doesn't define you now. You were never seeking their validation, only walking your path with the strength of knowing you were guided by something greater. That's the difference between you and them. You didn't need their approval to keep going. And now, as they sit in the shadows of their own regret, you are standing in the light of your truth. They laughed because they thought you were beneath them. Now they whisper because they realize you were always above them. The power of your perseverance wasn't just in surviving their mockery, it was in thriving in spite of it. Every laugh they directed at you became another step you climbed toward your destiny. And now, as they linger in their regret, you've already moved on, rising higher, untouched by their attempts to hold you back. Let them whisper, chosen one. Let them carry the weight of their regret, while you carry the strength of your truth. Their laughter is gone, and it will never return. Their regret is their burden to bear, not yours. You owe them nothing, not an explanation, not forgiveness, not acknowledgement. The echoes of their mockery are just shadows of a past you've already conquered. You are untouchable now, shielded by the power of knowing you've always been right. Let their whispers fade into the background, like a distant memory of a time when their opinions mattered. You are the storm that silenced their laughter, the truth that turned their confidence into doubt. Keep rising, chosen one, and let their regret remind them of one unshakable fact. You were never the one to doubt. They were. Number 4. The wolves in sheep's clothing are now howling in defeat. The wolves in sheep's clothing are now howling in defeat. They wore kindness like a mask, but behind it were teeth sharpened to tear you apart. Now, those very wolves are cornered by the truth they tried to devour, and their howls echo with the pain of their own defeat. Chosen one, do you remember how they cloaked their intentions in false smiles and hollow words? They pretended to be your allies, your supporters, even your friends, while secretly plotting your downfall. Their deception was as calculated as it was cowardly. They thought they could tear you down without you ever seeing the knife in their hands. But the truth has a way of exposing the predators in the herd. And now the wolves that once hid among the sheep are howling, not with triumph, but with the anguish of their own undoing. You see, they didn't just underestimate you, they underestimated the power of truth itself. They thought their disguise would hold forever, that you'd never see through the thin veil of their lies. They whispered sweet reassurances to your face while sharpening their claws behind your back. Every compliment was laced with poison, every kind word a carefully placed trap. But here's where they failed. You are not just a sheep in the flock. You are the shepherd, and no wolf, no matter how clever, can outsmart the one who was chosen to lead. They came as wolves in sheep's clothing, but their howls of defeat prove they were never meant to stand against you. Now that their masks have been stripped away, their true nature is exposed for all to see. They're scrambling, panicked, desperately trying to salvage the facade they worked so hard to maintain. But the damage is done. The truth has revealed them for what they are: weak, desperate predators who relied on deception because they lacked the strength to face you head-on. Imagine a wolf hiding in a flock, confident that its disguise is impenetrable, only to be caught by the light of dawn. That's what has happened to them, Chosen One. The light of your truth has pierced through their darkness, leaving them nowhere to hide. Their cunning was no match for your clarity. While they relied on tricks and manipulation, you stood firm in your integrity. They thought their scheming could outmaneuver your wisdom, but now their howls are the sound of their own defeat. They prowled in shadows, but the light of truth doesn't cast shadows. It obliterates them. They thought their subtle jabs and underhanded tactics could chip away at you, but instead, those efforts only revealed their own fragility. Every time they tried to undermine you, they exposed themselves further. Every whisper, every lie, every secret move they made in the dark was dragged into the open. And now, the world sees them as they truly are: wolves, stripped of their disguises, exposed and powerless. Chosen One, this isn't just about their defeat. It's about your triumph. Their howls are not just cries of pain. They are acknowledgements of your strength. They know now that you were never prey. You were the one they feared all along. They thought they could use your kindness against you, but they didn't realize that your kindness was a choice, not a weakness. You could have torn them apart at any moment, but you didn't need to. The truth did the work for you. They fed on deceit, but the truth has starved them. The power they thought they held over you was never real. It was an illusion, one they clung to with desperation, hoping you'd never see through it. But you always knew. You saw the cracks in their facade, the subtle signs of their treachery. You gave them a chance to change, to step out of the darkness and into the light. They chose instead to stay in the shadows, and now those shadows have consumed them. Let them howl, Chosen One. Let their cries echo as a reminder of the power you hold. You didn't just survive their schemes, you thrived in spite of them. While they were busy weaving lies, you were building an unshakable foundation of truth. And now, as their masks crumble and their true faces are revealed, they are left with nothing but regret. You owe them nothing. Not your attention, not your sympathy, not your forgiveness. They chose this path, and now they must walk it alone. Their howls of defeat are the sound of their own choices catching up to them. And you remain untouchable, rising higher with every step, untethered by their attempts to bring you down. Remember this, Chosen One: wolves only howl when they've lost the hunt. Their cries are not signs of strength, but of surrender. The very deception they relied on has become their undoing, and their defeat is proof that no scheme, no lie, no disguise can stand against the unrelenting power of truth. You've won, and they know it. Let their howls fade into the background as you walk forward, stronger than ever. Number 5. The weight of truth has broken their backs. They carried their lies like trophies, but truth isn't impressed by glitter. When the weight of reality came crashing down, their strength crumbled beneath the burden they created. Chosen One, look at them now. The ones who paraded their arrogance, who stood tall in their denial, are now bowing under the very truth they mocked. They thought they were untouchable, that their ignorance was a shield, but ignorance doesn't lighten the load. It only delays the inevitable. And now, the weight of what they refused to face has brought them to their knees. They lived their lives as if truth was a luxury they could afford to ignore, as if their lies could sustain them forever. They built their identity on illusions, stacking layer upon layer of falsehoods like a house of cards. But truth is unyielding, and it doesn't care about how carefully those cards were placed. When it comes crashing down, it hits like an avalanche, relentless, unstoppable, and crushing. For so long they laughed at you, dismissed you, and tried to convince the world that you were the one who didn't understand. They carried their lies like a badge of honor, proudly showing off their ignorance as though it were a crown. But what they didn't realize is that every lie, every excuse, every denial they clung to was another stone added to the weight they would eventually have to carry. And now that weight has broken their backs. Truth isn't heavy, it's the lies people pile on top of it that become unbearable. They piled lie upon lie, building a mountain of denial, thinking they could climb higher than the reality they refused to acknowledge. But mountains built on lies aren't solid. They're traps waiting to collapse. And now, as they stand buried beneath the rubble of their own creation, they finally understand the cost of ignoring the truth. Chosen one, you carried the truth when no one else would. You bore its weight with dignity, even when it felt like the world was against you. That's what makes you different. While they stumbled under the growing burden of their falsehoods, you stood tall, steady, and unbroken. They couldn't handle the truth because they were never strong enough to face it. But you embraced it, even when it hurt, even when it isolated you, because you understood that the truth isn't a burden, it's a gift. They thought you were burdened by your clarity, but now they see it was their blindness that broke them. They wanted you to carry their doubts, their mockery, their disbelief. They tried to project their weakness onto you, hoping it would weigh you down. But you knew better. You refused to carry their baggage because you knew it wasn't yours to bear. Instead, you carried only the truth. And that's why you're still standing while they've been crushed. Imagine them now, hunched under the weight of all the things they refuse to see. Their pride won't let them admit it, but their eyes tell the story. The widened stares, the nervous glances, the defeated postures, they're living in the aftermath of their own denial. They thought they could avoid the consequences of their lies, but the truth doesn't wait. It arrives when it's time, and when it does, it shows no mercy. They broke their own backs trying to run from reality, while you walked steadily toward it. They ran because they thought they could escape the truth. They mocked you because they thought your clarity was a curse. But the only curse was their refusal to see what was right in front of them. Every step you took toward the truth made you stronger, while every step they took away from it made their burden heavier. And now they look to you, chosen one. They see your strength, your resilience, and they wonder how you're still standing when they've been brought so low. The answer is simple. You were never afraid of the truth. You knew it wasn't something to fear, but something to embrace. They broke their backs trying to deny it, but you built your foundation on it, and now you're unshakable. Let their downfall be a reminder of what you've overcome. The weight that crushed them couldn't touch you because you carried only what mattered. Their whispers of regret, their quiet admissions of defeat, are proof of one thing: you were right all along. So stand tall, chosen one. Let their brokenness serve as a testament to your strength. You were chosen not just to see the truth, but to carry it, to live it, and to rise because of it. While they stumble under the weight of their lies, you walk forward, unburdened, unstoppable, and triumphant. The weight of truth didn't break you, it built you, and now it's clear to everyone who the real victor is. Number 6. When the dust settles, you're the last one standing. They charged at you like a storm, all noise and chaos, but when the dust cleared, it wasn't their shouts echoing in the silence. It was your unshakable presence. They fought to destroy you, but they only destroyed themselves. Chosen One, take a deep breath and look around. The battlefield they created is quiet now. The dust, stirred up by their chaos, is settling, revealing the truth they tried so hard to bury. And standing there, unbroken and unbothered, is you. You've outlasted their schemes, their lies, and their relentless attempts to bring you down. Every move they made, every weapon they wielded, was meant to see you fall. But now, they're the ones scrambling in the rubble, while you stand tall, the lone survivor of a war they thought they'd win. They came at you with everything they had, convinced their numbers, noise, and illusions would overwhelm you. They formed alliances built on mutual insecurity, banded together in their shared need to see you fail. But what they didn't realize is that you weren't playing their game. You didn't need their approval, their alliances, or their strategies. You were anchored in a strength they couldn't comprehend, guided by a purpose that was beyond their reach. Dust is what remains when everything weak has crumbled. That's all their attacks were. Weakness disguised as strength. Desperation disguised as power. They tried to create storms to distract you, to obscure your vision, to make you lose your footing. But you didn't flinch. You didn't panic. While they fought with chaos, you stood in the eye of the storm, calm, steady, and untouchable. Imagine a wildfire blazing through a forest. It rages, consuming everything in its path, leaving destruction in its wake. But when the flames die out and the smoke clears, what remains? The strongest trees, their roots deep and unshaken, their bark scarred but unbroken. That's you, Chosen One. They burned themselves out in their efforts to destroy you, and now they're nothing but ash while you stand as a testament to resilience. They threw everything at you, but nothing could move you. They wanted to see you stumble, to break under the weight of their attacks. They thought the noise they created would drown out your truth. But the truth doesn't need volume to be heard. It waits patiently, unshaken, until the dust settles and its clarity is undeniable. Now, as they look around, they're faced with a bitter reality. They spent all their energy fighting a battle they were never equipped to win. They wanted the world to see you fall. They thought their lies and accusations would stick, that their strength in numbers would be enough to bring you down. But here's what they didn't account for. Divine protection cannot be overthrown. The forces guiding you, the power that chose you for this path, were never something they could touch. Every trap they set was dismantled before you even reached it. Every attack they launched only revealed their own weakness. They weren't just fighting you, they were fighting against a purpose far greater than themselves. Now, as the dust settles, they're left to face the consequences of their actions. Their alliances have crumbled, their weapons have turned to dust, and the only thing left standing is the truth you've always carried. They're realizing now that their attempts to tear you down didn't just fail, they backfired. They exposed their own insecurities, their own lack of vision, their own inability to stand in the truth. And you didn't just survive, you thrived. They thought the dust would bury you, but it only revealed your strength. That's the power of being chosen, Chosen One. The divine didn't just protect you, it refined you. Every attack they launched, every scheme they devised, became a tool for your growth. You didn't just withstand their efforts, you turned them into stepping stones, climbing higher while they sank lower. Now they look at you and wonder how you did it. How did you survive their onslaught? How did you rise from the ashes of their chaos stronger than ever? The answer is simple. You were never fighting for survival. You were walking in purpose. Your strength doesn't come from their validation. It comes from within, from the unshakable foundation you've built, from the divine protection that surrounds you. So let them watch, chosen one. Let them sit in the silence of their defeat, while you stand as a monument to resilience. The dust has settled, and the truth is clear. You were always the strongest, the wisest, the one who would endure. They underestimated you, but their underestimation was their downfall. You're still here, still standing, while they've crumbled into the past. Keep rising, keep walking, and let the world see what true strength looks like. You've won. Number 7. The spotlight of truth has left them blinded. They lived their lives in the comfort of shadows, where lies could grow unchecked. But now, the light of truth has hit them like a floodlight in the dead of night, leaving them blinded and exposed. Chosen one, they never thought this day would come. They thrived in the darkness, hiding behind facades, feeding on deception, and convincing themselves that the truth could never find them. But the light doesn't ask permission to shine. It simply illuminates everything in its path. Now they stand frozen, exposed under the piercing glare of reality, unable to escape the truth they spent so long avoiding. They mocked your clarity, called you a dreamer, and laughed at your warnings because the light you carried terrified them. To acknowledge you were right would have shattered their illusions, so they kept their eyes tightly shut. But denial has a time limit, and the spotlight of truth always arrives when it's least expected. Now, that same light they feared has become their reckoning. They thought they could outrun the sunrise, but the light always catches up. Their comfort zone has turned into a prison of their own making, and the truth is, the key they refuse to hold. Imagine them now, squinting against the brightness, desperate to retreat into the shadows that once shielded them. But there's nowhere left to hide. The spotlight is unrelenting, shining on every crack, every falsehood, and every pretense they built their lives around. What makes the light so blinding is not its intensity, but the undeniable reflection it forces them to see. The truth acts like a mirror, exposing not just their lies, but also their insecurities, their arrogance, and their fear. It strips away the layers they use to protect themselves and leaves them bare, vulnerable, and ashamed. This isn't just about being wrong, it's about confronting the person they've been running from, themselves. Chosen one, the brilliance of your truth isn't just in its ability to illuminate, it's in its power to transform. You didn't just bring light to expose their darkness, you brought it to show the way forward. But not everyone is ready to see it. Their blindness isn't just physical, it's rooted in fear, pride, and denial. They weren't prepared for the consequences of your clarity, and now they're stumbling in their own confusion. The truth doesn't burn, it reveals. But for those who've lived in shadows, revelation feels like fire. They're feeling that fire now. Chosen one. The same people who dismissed you, ridiculed you, and underestimated you are now struggling to adjust to the harsh reality you've always seen. They're not just blinded by the light, they're paralyzed by it, unsure of how to move forward. Let them flinch, let them stumble, and let them wrestle with their blindness. You, chosen one, have nothing to prove. You've walked in the light all along, carrying the truth with you, even when no one else could see it. Their struggle is not your burden. Keep shining, keep walking, and let the spotlight of truth do what it was always meant to do. Reveal the unshakable strength of those who were never afraid to see. Number 8. The higher they climbed on ego, the harder they fell. They built their thrones on lies and crowned themselves with arrogance, believing the height would protect them. But the higher they climbed, the harder gravity pulled, and now their fall is nothing short of catastrophic. Chosen one, their arrogance was their foundation, but it was as unstable as sand in the wind. They thought their pride would shield them, that their inflated egos could elevate them beyond the reach of truth. They climbed higher and higher, fueled by false confidence, laughing at those below, never realizing that every step they took brought them closer to the inevitable collapse. Ego is a fragile thing, a balloon that can only rise so far before it bursts. They mistook their ascent as power, their distance from the ground as untouchability. But you saw it, didn't you? You saw the cracks forming in their facade long before they reached their peak. They mocked you from their false thrones, pointing down as if your humility was weakness. What they didn't understand is that those who stay grounded cannot fall, and fall they did. Imagine a tower built too high with no support, swaying in the wind, defying balance until it finally succumbs. That was their ego, a fragile monument to their own delusion. And now, as the pieces lie scattered, they're left sitting in the rubble of their pride, wondering how they didn't see this coming. But you saw it. You always saw it. Their arrogance was a beacon of their eventual demise. They can't comprehend it now, how their climb was their undoing, how their laughter, their sneers, and their superiority were the very things that blinded them to the truth you carried. While they reached for applause, you were building strength. While they climbed for recognition, you were solidifying purpose. And now they're on the ground, shattered by their own hubris, looking up at the one they thought they left behind. You. Chosen one, your power is in your humility, your ability to rise without the need for validation. Their fall is not your victory. It's the inevitable consequence of ignoring the truth. So let them wrestle with their regret, their questions, their loss of status. You don't need to gloat. The truth is your vindication, and their fall speaks louder than any words ever could. Keep rising, grounded and unshakable. You were always above them, not in ego, but in essence. Number 9. The reckoning, when the hunter becomes the hunted. They thought they could hunt you, but they forgot one thing. The hunted knows the terrain better than the hunter. Now they're lost, and the shadows they once controlled have turned against them. Chosen one, they spent their time circling you like predators, convinced they held the power, the control, the upper hand. They sharpened their claws and watched for a moment of weakness, mistaking your silence for submission. But what they never realized is that you were never prey. You were the force of nature they weren't prepared to face. They set their traps, only to find themselves caught in the web of their own deceit. Their arrogance blinded them. They reveled in the chase, convinced they were ahead, but all along they were walking into a reckoning they couldn't foresee. You let them think they were the hunters, gave them the illusion of control, but in truth, you were the one leading them into their downfall. Their games, their schemes, their relentless pursuit to see you fail, it was all for nothing. The tides have turned, and now they're scrambling, no longer predators, but panicked prey. They hunted you with desperation. Now they're running from the consequences they can't escape. They see it now, chosen one. The power dynamic has shifted, and the very strategies they used against you are closing in on them. The lies they spun are unraveling, the masks they wore are cracking, and the image they built of themselves as superior is crumbling under the weight of your resilience. They can't run from the truth, and the truth is, you've always been stronger, smarter, and more prepared than they ever gave you credit for. Imagine a wolf chasing its prey, only to realize too late that it has wandered into the den of a lion. That's where they stand now, surrounded by the very forces they unleashed, powerless against the reckoning they brought upon themselves. The hunter is now the hunted, and there's no escape. Chosen one, let them feel the weight of their own actions. Their pursuit of you was never about your weakness. It was about their fear of your strength. And now, as they find themselves cornered, they must face what they've been running from all along. You were never their prey. You were their reckoning. Number 10. Their own arrogance was the architect of their downfall. They built their pride like a tower, brick by brick, but their arrogance was the crack in the foundation. Now, the whole structure lies in ruins, and they can't blame anyone but themselves. Chosen one. Their downfall wasn't your doing. You didn't have to lift a finger. The seeds of their failure were planted in their arrogance, watered by their ignorance, and harvested by their pride. They thought they were invincible, untouchable, and beyond reproach. But arrogance isn't strength. It's a blindfold that keeps you from seeing the ground crumbling beneath your feet. And now, as they sit in the wreckage of their own hubris, they finally understand what you've always known. The higher they built themselves up, the harder they were destined to fall. They dismissed you because your quiet confidence made them uncomfortable. They mocked you because your clarity exposed the flaws in their illusions. They called you weak because your silence challenged their need for noise. But what they couldn't comprehend was that while they were busy building their kingdoms on sand, you were building yours on rock. You didn't rush to prove yourself because you didn't need to. The truth doesn't race, it waits. And now it's waiting no longer. The very thing they thought made them superior was the very thing that destroyed them. Their arrogance blinded them to reality. It made them deaf to warnings, immune to wisdom, and reckless in their choices. They thought their position was unshakable, but they didn't realize they were the ones shaking the ground. You tried to show them, but they were too busy looking down at you to look ahead. They laughed, scoffed, and dismissed your foresight, and now they choke on the dust of their own collapse. Let them sit in the rubble, chosen one. Let them replay every moment of their arrogance, every decision they made that led them to this point. This is their reckoning, and it's no one's fault but their own. You didn't need revenge, you only needed patience. Arrogance is a self-fulfilling prophecy. It guarantees its own destruction. You've risen above their games, their mockery, and their noise. They were architects of their own downfall. And you were always the storm they never saw coming. Keep rising, chosen one. Their pride built the ruins. Your truth builds the future. Number 11. Unseen strength. While they built walls, you built bridges. They thought their walls could keep you out, but you were never trying to get in. While they boxed themselves in with fear and pride, you built bridges to places they'll never reach. Chosen one, their walls weren't strength. They were shields of insecurity. Brick by brick, they built barriers around themselves, hoping to block out anything that challenged their fragile sense of control. They told themselves the walls were power, a fortress to keep you away. But all they did was trap themselves in a prison of their own making. Meanwhile, you were building something far greater, bridges to truth, clarity, and a destiny they can't comprehend. They laughed as they stacked their defenses, convinced that higher walls would elevate them. They believed isolation was superiority. But here's the truth they never saw. Walls don't protect, they suffocate. Their barriers cut them off from growth, connection, and understanding, while you kept moving forward, laying the foundation for something eternal. Walls block, bridges connect. You saw what they couldn't. That strength isn't in hiding behind barriers, but in reaching beyond them. While they clung to fear, you embraced courage. While they closed themselves off from the world, you stretched your hand toward it. And now, the bridges you've built have become pathways to greatness, while their walls crumble under the weight of their denial. They thought their walls kept you out, but they only shut themselves in. Their voices grew fainter, their perspectives smaller, their world narrower. And you stood tall, unshaken, building bridges that linked you to wisdom, growth, and transformation. Every bridge you built took you closer to your destiny, while they stayed confined in the shrinking world they created for themselves. Chosen one, your strength was never in tearing down their walls, it was in outgrowing them. The divine chose you not to fight their battles, but to rise above them, to lead, to connect, to see beyond. Their walls are their burden now, and your bridges. They're your legacy. So keep building, chosen one. Let them sit behind their walls, surrounded by the echoes of their own limitations, while you walk freely across the bridges you've forged. They'll never understand the power in what you've created, but that's okay. You don't need their understanding. You've already won. Number 12. Crowned by truth. Your power was never in their hands. They tried to break you because they couldn't understand you, but you were never theirs to destroy. You were crowned by truth, protected by a power they will never touch. Chosen one, your strength has never come from their opinions, their approval, or their acceptance. It was never in their hands to give or take. You were chosen by a higher force, guided by a truth so unshakable that their attacks could never reach your core. They thought they could control your narrative, that their ridicule could weaken your resolve, but they were wrong. You were crowned long before they even knew your name. Imagine a crown forged in fire, unyielding, untouchable. That's what you wear. Not something they can place on your head or take away, but something born of your trials, your vision, and your unwavering spirit. They tried to tarnish it with their lies, but the brilliance of truth always outshines the shadows of deceit. They never held the pen to your story. They only watched as you wrote chapters they couldn't comprehend. Their words were stones, but your foundation was unbreakable. They tried to define you by their shallow measures of success, but your power was never about material wins or fleeting recognition. It was always about the truth you carried, the divine protection that shielded you, and the clarity that set you apart. They mocked what they didn't understand because they feared what they couldn't control. But look at them now. The laughter has stopped, the illusions have crumbled, and they're left staring at a reality they can no longer deny. And there you are, standing tall, untouched by their chaos. Your power was never in their approval. It was in your ability to rise above their noise, to keep walking your path while they stumbled on theirs. They'll never admit it, but deep down, they know the truth. You were always beyond their reach. Every attempt to pull you down only pushed you higher. Every attack only solidified your place in a realm they can never enter. You've been crowned by truth, chosen one, and that crown can't be removed. Keep wearing it proudly, knowing this: your power, your strength, your destiny. It was never theirs to hold. It was always yours. And so, chosen one, the time has come to embrace your crown, your power, and your unstoppable truth. You've always been ahead, and now the world sees it. Like this video, don't forget to subscribe and drop 77 in the comments if you're ready to rise higher. Share this message. Others need to hear it.